good. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we will open the meeting and call it to order. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the Hoofy of the Shot and Chief Tested First Nation, and that we also schools located on the Hoofy of the Wyatt, Taloquiat First Nation, and the Yukon Department. We will do some introductions because I don't think our Shot representative has met everyone. So we'll go around and do that. We go left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or right? Right.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Cynthia. Can you see us, Cynthia, or hear us?
Yes, hi, I'm Cynthia Orr. I'm trustee.
I'll make some manager public for me.
Favorite superintendent. James Messenger, assistant superintendent.
Terry Phone, Secretary Treasurer.
Jocelyn Apple, Director of HR.
Congratulations.
Michelle Bennett, Director of Instruction.
Harley Wiley, CSHAT representative, council member.
Alex Taylor, Director of Operations.
Jeff Good, Assistant Director of Operations.
Hi, Harley.
Sean Peterson, President of the Principals and Vice Principals Association.
Ryan Dvorak, President of Alberta District Teachers Union.
Nadine White, President of Canadian Union of Public Employees.
Larry Ransom, Trustee.
Washington Trustee. Charlotte Bray, Trustee. Okay, Trustee.
Any trustee. Thank you. Okay, approval of the agenda. The Board of Education approved the June 2nd, 2026 Special Policy Committee agenda as presented.
So moved, Bray. Favor.
I see you, Cynthia.
He's not gonna have our camera on today.
Oh, okay. Darcy, we're just starting, we're doing an introduction. I'd like to make sure everyone knew everyone. Do you know everyone in the room?
Mostly.
Would you like anyone to?
I think.
My side. Okay, so we're gonna move down to item 4.1, video surveillance. And we're Director of Operations, Alex Taylor. You could take that one away. You're great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So in the policy section, well, start back on the info sheet I provided, just summarizing some of the changes and revisions. In the policy section, other than some formatting, there was including some more detail on the required acts and regulations. So for instance, the Privacy Act and the Privacy Commissioner in BC. And then removing the AP from the policy so that there's a clear policy statement. Any questions on the policy portion?
Looks great.
Great. Okay, so then by consensus, we'll move this to the next public board meeting for approval to vote for 30-day consultation. Great, thank you. And then I'm sorry, Director Taylor, if you mind doing the AP as well, that'd be great.
Sure. So in the AP, there's a bit more revisions than what was in the policy. So we removed reference to audio files being recorded. So in collaboration with Manager Mason, there's clear language in FOIPA and OIPC that audio recordings cannot be used in court proceedings. So that's why we chose to remove that from the AP. We also strengthened the AP with more reference to FOIPA and OIPC. And then we removed mention of blocked filing cabinets, as most of our video recordings are held on cloud network now. So just some outdated language. And then throughout the AP, it was separated into video surveillance of facilities and then video surveillance on buses. And there was a lot of redundancy between the two sections. So kind of struck through or removed any redundancies and made the video surveillance AP apply to both facilities and school buses. And then where school buses come in, that's really just speaking about anything school bus specific. So that was the basis on how the revisions to AP happen. Any questions on the AP?
or just comments, on the page, oh gosh. Got a whole copy in front of me. The third page. In the fourth bullet says if an employee or student, and it goes on, and it just got, it has the pronouns he and she and his and her, so I'm just suggesting change those to they or plural, whatever is appropriate. And then I have a question, just because when I was reading this, I was curious on for retention of video files, it 4.1 talks about if there's an incident, how do we say blah, 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 pardon me, it goes on and it talks about a copy shall be sent to the board insurers. Do we still does that happen? Do we have insurers or does it stay on the cloud?
Don't think this is common practice. I think it stays on file. I haven't been through an incident where we've sent school video footage to the insurer. I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. I just didn't know who their insurers are and what that is. And then again, along the same lines, the next page under 5.2, the last line, it says, and to make a report to the board on the use of video or surveillance in school districts. Oh, sorry, it said superintendent of schools delegates should conduct a review of at least an annual minutes. Do we actually do this? Because I don't remember the board ever having a video surveillance review. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it.
What
Yeah, go ahead.
point are you on?
5.2.
So in the operations department, we do review this policy in AP. Seeing as we oversee IT and transportation, this is something that we review. I'm not sure if the superintendent has designated this to us, but this is our practice.
There's never been a report made to the board on video surveillance.
Yeah, so this is what I was wondering, because I read this and I went, I can't recall that. So do we need to adjust that? Do we need to adhere to it? Is it important or is it something like, what do you think the direction should be?
I'm not sure that we need to be doing a report annually to the board on this, Alex, but I think it needs to be reviewed annually. I mean, this is an AP, so it's also like not something the board necessarily would have control over. So I think we need to look at the language of that, Alex, before we move forward. Sure. On 5.2, just make a note and we can chat.
I was just wondering if we're missing something, right?
That's a good point.
Thank you. That's it. Sorry, just checking the lineup. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, pardon me, Manager.
Through the chair, I just wondered, Director Taylor, if board insurers would be referring to SPP.
Yeah, I do agree. That would be our insurers.
So protection.
And 4.1, implementing the board's insurers. I believe that's the first one.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, 82 President Clark.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, I think, over what appears to be the addition of 5.4 surveillance. Wondering if anybody would have any examples of how, when, or why that would be used.
Of course.
Has been used. I can't give you details about circumstances, but it has to do with theft of a certain location. Not sure who the person was, but so it was one time, one specific item that a surveillance camera was put in place and then removed.
Thank you. Okay. Great. So that one, thank you, Dr. Taylor. And now we're going to 4.2. We're staying with you, Director Taylor. We're considering environment based.
Yes, thank you. So this AP was created in 2016 and it had the policy statement and the AP in one document. So the main purpose of this review is just to separate the policy statement from the AP. So under the policy, it's really just changing the school district to the Pacific Rim School District. Any questions on the policy revision?
That's great. So by consent, we'll move this to the next public board meeting for approval for 30-day consultation. Thank you. And then the AP, please.
The AP, again, very limited revisions other than just moving wording around from maintenance to operations, just to align with how we reference the operations department currently.
Questions? Thank you. Thank you. 4.3, Mr. Taylor, or Director Taylor, divisions of mental products to students.
Yes, thank you. Similar to the last AP, this one was created with the policy statement and the AP combined. So the main purpose of revising this one is to separate the policy from the AP. So the policy has very little revisions other than the Pacific Rim School District name at the top.
Any questions? Great, thank you. So by consent, we'll move this to the board meeting for approval for 30-day consultation. And I'll ask Dr. Taylor to continue with the AP.
Yeah, so similar with the AP, other than the addition of a different resource or mention of the policy in the resource section, there's been no edits to the AP, just removing the policy statement.
Great, thank you. Okay, and now we're going to move on to Assistant Director of Operations, Mr. Good, for rental of district facilities, please.
I'll start with the kind of go over the information sheet here. So currently we have two APs. One is specifically for ADSF rentals. The other one was just for the rest of the district facilities. With a lot of the bookings and rentals coming up to operations, we kind of wanted to consolidate it. The ADSF one was quite a small AP, so we want to just consolidate the two together. A lot of the changes in there, I didn't put in the info sheet like I was going to, but kind of the main changes on the AP of that. A lot of it was just changing the wording, how we consolidated up to our operations department, getting rid of some of the redundant, we had the West Coast MOUs for Tofino and Ucluelet. We just had to refer to those MOUs, kind of simplified it a bit. Changed up the categories for who's using these facilities and kind of the rental rates and where they sit in those areas. We added just some extra things for the user groups, parking. We added a voluntary representative agreement as well. That's for if SD70 employees are on site instead of a custodian, they can sign that form. So that's at the bottom. Insurance, we also added quite a bit to that. And the last part was we adjusted the rental facility hourly rates as well. So that was kind of the main changes, as well as we made a few adjustments to our ADSS theater and auditorium as well. Just explaining how that booking process goes between our operations assistant and the clerical, just having it very clear on how we're having these bookings moving forward. So, yeah, questions?
Just ask, or I believe this is how we'll proceed. The AP, the 3121 rental ADSS is an AP, but it's got AP and policy in it, and we're archiving and repeating or whatever the correct word is. I'm assuming that this needs to go out for public consultation because it's got part policy, but is that the correct assumption, or do we think it's not needing to go out? Manager Mason?
Sorry, I was just gonna answer through the chair. I don't see policy in the revised 3120.
3120.
So it wouldn't go out for public. 3121.
My assumption is that the policy part needs to be, could be stricken. Again, we have far too many policies. I don't think we need a policy about rentals. We just need to either manages how we rent. So we'd strike that policy piece that was initially in there.
We're getting rid of 3121 altogether, is my understanding. Right? And because it has part policy, and because we're deleting a policy, do we not need to have that go out for consultation?
That part should.
That's my question. Sorry if I didn't say it very well. So, okay, so I'm just going to confirm that 3121 rental ADSS AP, which has policy in it because it's an old one, will go out for public consultation to advise it's being removed, archived, or whatever. Okay, so we're good with that? Okay, that's my, okay, thank you. And then are there questions on 3120 rental district facilities AP? ADTU President Clark.
The question under 4.0, the new language, 4.2, every user group will be required to have a school district staff member on site during the time of use, whether a custodian on shift, a call-up custodian, or other staff member hired for that purpose. Responsibility for the community group may be assumed by a staff member who is part of the group, provided they sign a waiver acknowledging the responsibility. What would the potential employment consequences be should something happen during a rental and it's, say, a member of a sports team having a tournament? Somebody gets behind the barriers and causes some mayhem.
Unless that employee is doing work that's directed by the district, they're not covered by WorkSafe. That's the question.
More the question of the responsibility for the damages.
Oh, I see. If they're responsible for that. Yeah.
Well, if they're signed the waiver, right?
Right.
I guess I've read that they're responsible for any damage, like the group.
Yeah, the way I read it, the group would be responsible for any damage.
So they'd be treated like a community member, not like an employee.
They are there, I believe, largely, and Jeff, you can respond for that, just secure the building when they're done.
Security and just kind of watching over that.
So if they're part of the group that's renting it, they would be included as part of the group's responsibility for the building, not individually. That's how I would read it.
I have some questions, so I'll go ahead. First question is, I was trying to find a policy. Do we have a rental facilities policy? Because I couldn't find one.
We don't have one on the website, but I know the only one was on the ADSS rental.
Okay, so we don't need a policy. We just need the AP for that, for this, because it's so whatever. Okay. Okay. Sorry, so doing this. When it talks on the info sheet, it talks about in the second paragraph about information midway down, it says, in addition, AV technical services. What does that mean?
Like our audio visual, lighting, sound.
I'm sure it was a Bernie Valley, and I couldn't figure it out. I was just struggling with that. Thank you. And then I had a couple more. Just to find them, sorry. On here, it talks about collecting fees and stuff, but it doesn't say who. We don't need that in here. Like it'll say that it's the operations department purview and they're going to manage it and stuff, but the collection of funds, I couldn't find it in here. So do we need to make any comment about that, or it just says the funds can be used to offset costs of the community use for that facility?
I know they're in there. It's all the booking of the rentals goes through the operations assistant, so I would assume that would have the fees in there as well. But I mean, we can always add a section in there.
I just want to make sure the accountability that we've got, the money's being collected in one place that we actually can track it, and that it's not just going by the wayside and inadvertently. So that was my concern. I couldn't see how we could track the money and that it's being collected and then given to the school or the building. Director Taylor.
So current practice is
it is being collected into one account that is then shared with the secretary treasurer to offset expenses and anything incurred from facility rentals.
So do you think it'd be wise to add something in the AP to reflect that, something to that effect, a line adding
In my opinion, is the language is clear.
3.6?
Yeah, 3.6, I think, Alex.
There was- 3.6. In memorandum of understanding, example, to the hold on dispersed fees. Okay.
Okay, that works. Thank you.
Using my files on my pages. Sure, certainly, trustee Clifford.
To, I guess, Mr. Good and Mr. Taylor. I'm really concerned about extensive use of the theater. And I understand to the quality of that theater, that the community loves to be able to have that accessibility. But at events that I have gone for a public event, I see people stepping over seats from one row to the next. I see people bringing in more than water. I just am very concerned that when we are contracting to have outside usage to the theater, that I know it's hard work to do. Those details have to be discussed with the person that's coming to rent the facility. If it doesn't happen and we do have damage, we may have to consider not renting it out to general community events. And I don't want to see that happen, but I have a deep concern. If a seat is damaged, I guess, I don't know how they're all put together, whether they're all joined together. Does it just, do we lose one seat or do we lose a whole bunch of them? Those kinds of things have to be in the backs of our mind as we rent to certain user groups. I don't know your thoughts on that, or if you have got, those kinds of details in the contracting discussions.
I know with a lot of our rentals now, with a lot of these changes coming, it's been quite a eye opener and change for our user groups as well. So I think just that communication with our operations assistant and the user groups, just ensuring we're fairly strict on these policies. Once this is through, it'd be nice to share it and really show hey, this is, it would say with our gym rentals too, our PE department takes a lot of pride in that gym there, and they don't give it up easy because it is such a nice gym, and I'd like to keep that the same with the theater as well. So I think just moving forward, that strictness on our policies on what's in there. Maybe there's a security thing we need to look at, but
And I just want to add, we do collect liability insurance, proof of liability insurance from every renter. That would help offset any damages. And then also all renters sign a contract. And that is clearly stated in there, the terms of their use. And so there should be some sort of acknowledgement that no alcohol, all those kind of things.
I really appreciate that. It's just, I think, needs to be said over and over so that people are comfortable with going forward. Thank you.
Superintendent Clayton.
I think Trustee Craig makes a good point, though, Jeff, that we go and use the gyms every Monday morning or the next day, but the theater sometimes gets set empty for a week or two.
Yeah.
And that we probably should think about a process, and I don't think it has to be an AP, but a process through operations in the school where there may be spot checks when there's a big function. And probably for sure, there's a walkthrough afterwards by a school administrator or you or somebody just to make sure that there is no damage. But and I think catching some behavior that was not acceptable to the contract once in a while will help to enforce that it needs to be taken care of. Because I completely agree, it's not like a gym floor. And the technical stuff is fine because the AV guys are there, but the seats and the floors and the carpets and all that stuff,
we can put that in our practice through operations.
you might want to include that in the contract that there may be
Yeah.
inspected afterwards or whatever. Sure.
Thank you, Superintendent Kramer.
I just want to add to that. I agree, because when you go for events, it's food everywhere. I mean, but if my question to your point is, so it's, someone spills pop all over the chair, so, or a row of chairs or something, and those chairs are not available for the next day when there's an event, like, do we need to have on-site, like, can the AV person that's there do any kind of monitoring or enforcement? I'm just curious, because if we're not on it at the time, then the use might be disrupted for another event following, which could be a school event. Or is that not, it doesn't happen enough that it's a concern?
Am I correct, Jeff, that there's a custodian that cleans after the user groups?
Yes, yeah, and that's another thing, we've been very strict on having it, because a lot of, like, some of these events happen Sunday, and they need to be like, we're very Monday morning school, it has to be ready for school. So they do go through, they clean, and that's something that we can communicate to the custodian too, as well as, hey, along with your cleaning, do it, look around, look at the seats, look for damage, look for anything like that. Like, that's the person that would probably be best to do it. I can communicate that for sure.
I have a couple of questions. This is down to 2.0 category users, 2.7, 8, and 9 have all been added. And I was just like with the age, we're taking out the age for the youth and the seniors. So I'm curious why we don't think we need that, or don't we want to have the ages in there again to give people kind of clarity on by defining what you are when you're a youth and what you are when you're an adult or a senior? Assistant Superintendent Messenger.
I can jump in there a little bit because we've had some conversations back and forth. Broadly, we looked at other school districts' procedures around this, and actually we were finding that we had a subsidized rate for anybody involving youth. But how do we distinguish between profit, nonprofit? And we're actually trying to clarify what happens if part of the group is youth and part of the group is adult and they're for profit. Do they still get a subsidized rate? So we were actually, the intention with these categories is trying to clearly delineate between that, so that we have a clear parameter in when to give the subsidized rate and when not. Do we perhaps, if it's not clearly understood, we need to clarify that further. Was the intention.
So it gives you flexibility, kind of thing. Okay. That answers my question. And then, okay, 5.2, insurance. We're asking for a liability insurance with the minimum coverage of 2 million. Is that enough? They burn down half of the gym. I mean, so it's rented for a music concert or something, and they burn down half the gym, which is half the like part of the building. Is $2 million going to cover it?
Sure, on that's. Paul, do you have a?
Thank you.
Oh, great.
Secretary Treasurer will answer that? I haven't answered, but
I'll let you answer.
You can tell me if I'm wrong. Liability is if they do something wrong. It's not for the building itself. We are insured, our buildings are insured. So it's somebody, if they left a power cord out and someone tripped over it and sued us because they broke their neck falling down the stairs, their insurance would cover that.
So injury insurance.
Yeah, so it's liability insurance, not property insurance.
So we're good then.
How's that sound?
It's good.
Okay, and so we're, as long as we're covered, just yours.
Through the chair, I know the city has increased their liability insurance from 2 to 5. Just because the cost of everything has gone through the roof. So I think we might want to look at that. I think that's a good point.
Trustee Brick.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding is that like the liability is just like injury. So I understand that the cost is up on things, but if there was damage, would our property insurance not cover that? My understanding is the liability is just if somebody gets hurt.
Sorry, I am actually referring to liability. Like in the city policy for 5 million is if you're at a market and you hit the sidewalk and fall over. But liability can include everything if you have missed work, all sorts of things. And it's $2 million isn't much these days, believe it or not.
Trustee Ransom.
Yeah, just to follow up on it, Chair, 5 million wouldn't cover very much if the person is left as a severe lifelong injuries. which includes also wage loss, replacement, et cetera. So it's standard's 5 million.
Superintendent Quaker.
Cost of insurance goes up exponentially as they add millions of dollars. And so for some of our user groups, that would be prohibitive from them using our facility. So there is a balance, and we've gone through lawyers and what's the standard. 2 million is pretty common, but I would say that to that point, maybe the Secretary Treasurer could just investigate a little bit further and see what the standard is in other areas. Because a small group renting something for 5 million, they're not going to be able to do it for sure. We have this issue with our childcare providers, for example, the level of their insurance, which is pretty standard at 2 million. But it's something that we can investigate to see whether that's enough.
Perhaps the commercial, like the nonprofit, maybe leave it too, and people that are not nonprofit, they can pay more because they can afford it. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Kind of put my local government hat back on for a minute. And so they, through the Municipal Insurance Association, had like different levels of risk and the guidance that were related on risk. So I can definitely talk to SPP and see if they have some sort of similar guidance. But I do recognize that some of those smaller not-for-profits are really, they can't even get offered some of those larger amounts, never mind if they have an ability to pay for it. So it does become problematic for some of those very small groups, but definitely can look into it.
Perfect. That'd be appreciated. DPAC rep, Mr. Beck.
Yes. Add to the insurance part of the conversation. Makes sense, but yeah, one blanket rate might not be appropriate for all groups. I imagine we have groups that are like, 10 or 12 people doing an after-school sport of some sort versus groups that are filling a gymnasium with 500 people. And that 500 group might be worth they have a higher level of insurance, whereas that dozen people couldn't afford a 5 million policy, let alone maybe even a 2 million policy for what they're doing. So might be worth considering a variable solution.
They're listening, so. Trustee Washington.
Thank you through the chair. The cost of a policy also is set on how many people are going to be attending the event. So if it's a smaller group, it's not as expensive because the risks are not as high. So, sorry. I just, as a part of a small group, the Uptown Merchants Association, we had maybe 10 businesses putting into this. We were still required because we had an event that garnered 200 people.
Two more comments. The appendix to voluntary representative agreement. Under rule overview, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bullet, ensure the building is secure following the rental. Well, earlier on the policy, but 4.1, not policy, pardon me, the AP, it talks about throughout the rental. So I was just going to suggest that we ensure the building is secure throughout the rental. Make that change to just to line up with the 4.1. Assistant Superintendent Messenger.
I think the intention there is for sure they're the caretaker sort of eyes during the event, but to be really explicit that at the conclusion of the event, they're responsible for making sure the building is secure.
Okay.
So I think it probably is important to have those two roles distinguished. You're there present as the district's representative maintaining oversight, but at the end, you're there making sure it's secure.
Can we add that? Then can we do throughout and ensure it's something else? And
well, I think bullet 1 is be on site for the full duration of the rental.
Does that mean I'm going to keep it secure if I read that? I'm the person just asking.
Yeah, safeguard facilities, equipment, and ensure appropriate use of space.
Okay, so if we're good, if you good, okay. Okay, and then my last question is, because there's some changes to rates and so on in here and it affects the public, are we moving SAP for 30-day consultation? Any comments, staff? I'll just do trustee Washington and then,
Through the chair, my understanding is an AP is at the school or the superintendent levels purview, so.
but if it affects the wider public, then my understanding is it would go to the public. So that's why I asked the question. You have Brett.
Darcy,
Yeah.
I just want to point out that might help answer your question on page 22 at the bottom, next steps. It mentions to include finalizing the updated policy and preparing it for distribution to internal stakeholders and public users. Maybe I'm wrong. I was under the assumption that that would be for consultation with those internal stakeholders and public users.
The consent, pretty,
Just our procedure is that anyone who may be impacted by any APs is also allowed a consultation. So I'm assuming that Jeff would send this to PACS, DPAC, and then put it on the public website. Perhaps any major users, Jeff, the Soccer Association or that kind of thing. But yeah, this one needs to be up broader.
So were you saying yes to my question? Or are you
Yes,
saying that?
we're required, the APs are also required to go to anyone who may be impacted.
Right, so we're going to do that and bring it to the board to put on the policy page, is that? Will we do the reviews?
We'll sort out how to engage those who might be impacted with it, but likely it'll be on the website as well as all these other direct communications.
I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to understand. When you say website, is it going to go under the policy? No.
It will go on the website as an AP for facilities.
Okay, if everyone's happy with that, then, yeah, okay. And the last question, do we have references on the bottom of that AP to reference for anything else? Or just Sartenia, I'm curious. Great, thank you for that. Okay. I'm going to move on to where to stay with you, pardon me. Oh, pardon me, Darcy, go ahead.
That's some questions.
Okay, sorry.
The first question, understanding what's typical in practice and then reading the actual policy. I'm not clear as a user group where PACs fall into this policy. What's in practice is typically they have been able to use facilities at no charge. Pretty much everything they're doing supports the school and the students. But it wasn't too clear to me how it's written in here where that applies. And that would be the ongoing intention.
The comment from staff. I would say that if it's a school event, then it takes priority over others and it would just be covered. Jeff, sorry. Mr. Good, my apologies.
Yeah, I'm not sure like I'd have to talk to Rebecca, our operations system, about what we've done in the past. I mean, if it's all students from a school, I would just assume that would sit under the category A as school and district use. I think that's only fair. And it's our students, right? So.
Otherwise, just food for thought. A couple of notes here. Oh, I wanted to add a comment about when we're talking about the theater and, people that bring in something other than water bottles. Memory serves me, I don't see much signage about that. And I know that's generally a lot of community know that, but a lot of community maybe don't know that. And I think signage might be the simplest form if it's not already there on those theater doors. And also the reminder that whoever's using the theater should announce and make it clear for all their users who usually may not know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, because some well-run events I've been to, there's someone at the door as you go in and they will, advise you. And other times the doors are just wide open. People come in and there's a no charge event and they don't know or think otherwise. On the rate. So again, think we've addressed my PAC related question. Generally, they would be a 0 rated group. Speaking specifically to the theater, so it's my understanding this is an hourly rate. And so we're defining an amount that wasn't defined before because that doesn't have a black one crossed off. It's just all in red. Is there any consideration to day rates or an extended rate for a group that's needing use of it for a period of time? In my personal experience, why I'm curious is dance groups. Often they make extended use of the theater for practices and rehearsals and show days on multiple days. Would it be worth considering a discount or a day rate to help make it easier for groups that whether community or commercial could benefit from wanting to use it for a big project and not just be dinged a flat hourly rate?
Yeah, I know we looked over quite a few other districts and what they had in their policy or their APs. Basically brought it down to simplifying, having that set prices. Kind of goes with making sure, you know, the use of our facility, making sure that we're getting our, you know, if damages are happening and stuff, like it's just keeping our facility in good shape and rented. But I don't know if there's other ideas on if that's something we want to.
This is,
And I apologize, that should have been through each. We were kind of continuing that.
Well, I'm pretty easygoing.
just gonna say this, the reason it's a new service is because this was previously done through ADSS.
Mhm.
And so coming into operations, we were trying to pick up pieces of how they were doing things and wasn't necessarily documented. So Jeff was mentioning researching what other school districts were doing. That's kind of how we base this.
My last question that was in here somewhere was something to the effect of how facility rental revenue may be allocated to schools where it can be shown that those funds are needed to offset costs of community use, etc. Was there any further details on how that might be considered, or just kind of a blanket statement that we might, instead of having a big pool, divvy it up a bit?
Yeah, so we collect revenue from the event rentals, but then there's also additional expenses, custodian time, increased facility usage, increased wear and tear, increased custodial supplies, increased utility usage. Sometimes we're offsetting HVAC schedules to do these rentals. So currently we need to make sure we're covering all those additional expenses. And then it's evaluated and will be shared with the Secretary Treasurer if there's any revenue outside of expenses.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Director. Okay, that's that one. We're gonna stay with you for the confined space, please. Oh, take it off, my apologies. Thank you. 4.5 for confined space.
So currently we don't have a policy or admin procedure for this. It's something that our operations team, they deal with daily. A lot of every school. So what we did is we have reviewed all of our buildings. We have gone through risk assessments on heights, anything over 25 feet, we have risk assessment plans. So after this assessment, we have shared this with our employees. They are aware, but there was no policy and admin procedure. So they have the training. They know what is required in these areas, but we wanted to have something written down for following. So that is what we have for our info sheet and policy here. And then our policy is just a note for employees, any work conducted at elevations over 10 feet or more. They must follow the working from heights procedure and follow any site-specific fall protection plans as well. And that's working over 25 feet, so that gets a bit more extreme, and we just have to make sure we're following. So any questions on policy?
I don't see any questions. Okay. So we're gonna move this to public meeting for approval for 30-day consultation. Yeah, okay, and if you wanted to review anything about the AP or anybody have questions? Okay, great. AP looks great. Thank you. Tell me about both. Now we're going to 4.6 and we're staying with you. We're doing compliance space, please.
Confined space, this was very similar to our working from heights. Again, we didn't have any policy procedure. We have been working through training, getting all our safety equipment. We have been working towards getting our crew trained in confined space. We do have quite a bit of confined spaces in our buildings. So our first step was getting us inventory of all our areas, marking all our areas so everybody knows what our confined spaces are. So we have a policy and a procedure for confined space. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, but no. Jumping, I'm losing my thought here. So the policy, there's no questions. We will move it to the next public board meeting for 30-day consultation. And is there anything you wanted to review in the meeting or should we just?
No, it's just defining our low hazard, moderate hazard, high hazard. Just really explaining that clearly. And then also want to note we do have rescue as well. And part of our training we did recently was 3-day training. 2 days was rescue as well. So just a note in there to follow our rescue procedures.
Awesome. One comment about the second page of the AP, just in the top of the second line, under his, her supervision. So again, just to neutralize, change the pronoun to, I guess is the word. And then just another question about the third responsibility. The third one is contractors. And it talks about the individuals contracted will work in accordance with Pacific Rim School District confined space procedures, but they'll always work within a work site. I mean, we don't need to make any comment to that. I mean, that's just no standard.
They will, but there are contractors who do not have confined space, like residential carpenters would not have confined space training. So there are a lot of contractors who don't have that. Those would be something that we'll have to be mindful of and making sure they're following our policies.
Thank you. So I made it to you.
I just wanted to say thank you. Not only you guys kicking butt at reviewing policies, but you're great and new. Thanks very much.
Seven. School trustee code of conduct, Manager Mason.
Thank you. I did provide, and through the chair, I did provide an info sheet, kind of explaining the rationale of any proposed changes throughout the city. So I'm really happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for us?
Just a couple of questions, Madam Chair, through you. The where am I at here? The sort of preamble of the AP talks about highest ethical standards of trustees, dealing with the community, all citizens of the district. But then both the informal and formal complaints complaint procedures both speak specifically to a trustee who believes a violation has occurred versus a member of the community or public or other group or body. I'm just wondering if that's intentional, if this is just between trustees, or if there's a mechanism for, given the preamble, the other members of the community to make a complaint.
Good question. Point.
It may be captured in another AP, I'm not aware of.
Through the chair, that's a really good point. And if you don't mind, I think I'd like to research that a little bit further.
Sorry, just making notes. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna dive into some specifics. That's what I do. So one of the things that I'm not really sensing here or not clear on is the code of conduct allegations, whatever the word is, or that these are for serious breaches, like there's no kind of like, well, let's talk about breaches and then there's lots of different types and stuff, but just to kind of confirm this code of conduct and these hearings are for serious breaches. So I just wanted to make that comment as we go through. Janessa.
To the chair, are you asking what the definition or what would constitute a breach?
Sorry, I know it's really vague and I apologize. I just wanted to give that, express that feel. But maybe when I ask the rest of my questions, I'll be able to get a better feel of it. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to go right. No, look at all my notes. Okay, 1.4. It talks about trustees who believe a violation has occurred will engage in individual private conversation with the trustee affected. It could be more than one trustee. So I'm suggesting putting an S there or in so whatever. And then instead of affected, I think it should be involved or concerned because it just made more sense to me. Because it's really the other person that is being affected. Does that make sense? Sure. Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm making sense. Okay, 1.6, it the third line talks about through the informal complaint process. The informal complaint process is not possible. The official complaint. Shouldn't we put formal complaint? Because that's actually what it's called later on, is formal complaint process. Just to keep okay, thank you. And then I'm just going to keep going unless stop me if someone has 9.1. Trustee who wishes to
1.9 or 9?
Sorry, no, you're totally right. 1.9. Sorry about that. Trustee who wishes to commence and official, again, change to formal. We just spoke about the same reasoning that's my reasoning. And this is where I might put alleging a serious breach, but because that's a formal. If you're going to like informal, it's like, okay, whatever the situation, we're going to talk about it and figure it out. But if it's going to be formal, it should be a serious breach. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. Go ahead.
So this is written in conjunction with upholding what's set out in policy 112. So policy 112 sets out all the things that a school trustee is bound to in their role. Okay. And so this a breach of that, like you are saying, could be many different levels of it. Somebody could be a bit offended, or it could be a really serious, impactful breach. So in dealing this, the AP is really setting out the ways of dealing with a wide variety of things.
Okay, that makes sense because you're lining up with the 112 you're saying.
Yes, and so when it mentions in section 1.9 alleging a breach of the code that's being referred to is in policy 112. It's the school trustee code of conduct.
Should we throw that in there? Code.
It says it in the preamble, and it also mentions it in the references and resources. Okay. So throughout the whole AP, it refers to the code.
Okay, that works for me. And then I'm gonna go, okay, 1.4. Oh, sorry, 1.1. So this and 1.15. So when I read this, it talks about, we're now in a formal procedures. And it talks about, there's been a meeting held and these are the three options. But then in 1.15, it talks about, well, when you're in that meeting, this is what you're going to think about. So I'm kind of like, should the order be, should 1.15 be before 1.14 or somehow more aligned? Because it kind of like says, okay, these are your options. And later, I don't know, these are my thoughts. I'm just throwing out my thoughts and you've written it. So you've kind of, or something. And in that same 1.14, it talks about dismiss the complaint, adjourn, refer to formal. We don't have any kind of resolutions in there. Like earlier in the old one, it kind of has options. So if you're at a point where, okay, we wasn't resolved with the conversation, it's now gone to a letter, right? Yeah, it's a letter to everybody and everyone's going to read it and have a think. And you're either going to dismiss it or you're going to adjourn it for more investigation, which is really going on to the hearing, if I'm following it right. Or you're going to, oh, sorry, more investigation, or you're going to do a formal hearing. But there's no place in there to actually stop and go, okay, no, there is some merit here, but I don't think we should necessarily dismiss it or get more info or really do a formal hearing, because that's kind of just almost at more everything. Should we have some resolutions like in the old 1.6, the revised, like a letter of apology, participate in restorative, blah, blah, blah. So that's where I was wondering if we need to have a spot to stop, because otherwise you could potentially, and it's hard until you're in a situation to know what's going to happen, but to allow that opportunity to have it, to have, or you know, you don't want to do nothing, but you don't necessarily want to delve too much further in this. You just want a letter, say, okay, so and so. I guess I shouldn't say stuff like you swore at someone, right? You shouldn't do that, right? So suddenly, like, you know, you couldn't get through that with a conversation, but because someone wants to go further, should we have an opportunity to have a letter saying, you know, I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to write you a letter and that was very bad. And sincerely, I'm not being flippant, but I just don't think we're leaving opportunities for recourse there is my concern, because it might just jump. Manager Mason.
To the chair, that was very long.
Well, I'm trying to explain it all.
So in 1.14, this is basically where the board is having a preliminary review of the complaint. So they're deciding, are they going to dismiss the complaint? Are they going to adjourn the meeting and refer it to further investigation? So perhaps they need more facts before they can make a decision as to whether to move it to a hearing or not. Or if it's really clear and they want it to go to a formal hearing, they would just do so. While making that determination, the board is being asked to consider 1.15, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4. So they're not separate things. I feel like that's kind of my answer to the first part of what you were asking. And then it also asks in the paragraph after that, the board consider the nature of the matter, et cetera. So this, in my opinion, provides a whole lot of time for the board as a collective group to stop and think. What is the matter? What do we know? What has happened? You know, how grave is it or how light is it? If it's something like, you can't swear, I'm really sorry, I'll write a letter. You know, I would assume that by this point, you'll have been addressed. You'll have said, yes, absolutely, I'm going to stop swearing. I shouldn't have done that. You might decide to write a letter of apology. I don't think at that point the board is going to then refer to further investigation or a hearing. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that comes before this, and even again before it goes to a code of conduct hearing. I feel like this process provides a lot of pause and a lot of time and opportunity for the respondent to respond and say, I hear you, I shouldn't do that, I won't do it again. And if it's something light, and I think we would mark it down as a learning lesson and it wouldn't happen again.
Thank you. I agree with Manager Mason. I mean, maybe not solely the one, but I had asked for this to come up for us to review, to make some changes. And the main points were just kind of having an opportunity for more conversation, but the whole board being together to make those decisions together. And this nails it. I think it's clearly laid out. I think it's easy to follow. And I think if this ever comes up, then the board would be able to come together and clearly make a decision. And it's just so clear. It's exactly what I was hoping for. So I like it the way it is, and thank you very much.
Trustee Gray. Thank you, Trustee Gray. Also, what I really appreciate with how this process has been developed is previously we had a number of opportunities to put in timelines, like in 3 days or in 2 weeks, this shall happen, and so on. This allows for a bit of flexibility, but also an opportunity to have lengthy discussions as well. So I agree that I think that this is going to help most definitely. Definitely the next process is a little more severe. You're talking about investigations coming up and then an actual hearing ultimately, perhaps. But this allows that ability to communicate directly without specific timelines.
That's another question. Okay, I disagree a little bit, but that's, 117. So I just think that you might want a little space in there, but I think it does kind of go dismiss, investigate, or hearing. So, but I hear the board.
May I answer? Of course, thank you, Chair. I think, don't worry about that. I do think, sorry, we can have a clear conversation that if more time is needed, we'll figure it out. Not necessarily us, it'd be a board in the future.
the board, yeah.
If there is difficulty, then they must go back and review this and make the changes. So if that develops, there's still opportunity to adapt.
Sorry, go ahead.
Through the chair, I'm thinking that maybe the word investigate is what's holding you up. Like when you think of investigate, it's a very formal process. Or potentially could be obtain further information instead of investigate, or I'm not certain if that makes more sense to you.
But when you're investigating, it sounds like another hearing, and that's the next step. So I am struggling, I guess, with that point. Pardon me, Manager.
Through the chair in 1.15.3, it says if there's need to obtain additional information regarding the allegation prior to holding a code of conduct hearing, in which case the matter may be referred to a third party for investigation. And it also in the next one allows for a more appropriate forum for dealing with the alleged misconduct. So again, there are more pauses, and the word investigation doesn't mean definitely a third party investigator to come in and hold an investigation. This may just mean that some in discussion, some things have come to light. There are some things the board's not sure of and they need to find it out. So they're going to seek more information. It doesn't set it in stone that that's a third party investigation.
Yeah. Trustee Bright.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to add that it's just investigating it's just gathering information, right? Like that's what you need to do. A complaint comes in. That's the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get some information. You're going to talk to people, figure out what happened, where it's coming from. That's how it's done. You need to do the investigation from the beginning. It's not used at the beginning, but it is just a gathering of information to move forward.
Okay, I still don't totally agree, but that's okay. Do we want to add anything about in there as they had in 1.64 about options there or not, like the possibility for resolutions?
Sorry, what are you talking about?
So 1.4, what it talks about the things you're going to do, and 1.15, again, considering all these factors. It just kind of goes on at the end of that. 1.152, and making such determination, the board will, and there's a paragraph at the top of page 58, and then it says, in the event the board determines that there are no further actions required, the complaint shall be dismissed and the matter will be considered closed. But if there is a little bit of action, that's what I'm saying, like the options to give guidance about, maybe having a letter or whatever those training or the stuff that was been stricken out of 1.6. That's okay. Sorry, it's hard to see, Manager Mason. Trustee Bright.
I feel like in 1.15, it gives the opportunity But again, when you come together as a board, that's part of the conversation, right? What happened? Do we agree that a breach happened? Okay, what are we gonna do about it?
I'm just wondering, so if it's a new board, they don't know all, but like, what I liked about it being written in the policy was it gave ideas, like, I've never done this before, what do I do? Like, you could write a letter, or you guys could write, here's some ideas before, they don't have to do these things. But you could write a letter, or you could look at training, or you could look, I mean, we'll have staff that can provide guidance, but those are, if for a board, someone new reading it. Manager Mason.
Through the chair, I don't see any harm actually in reviving the section that was struck out originally in 1.6. I just don't think that this would be the section of the AP that it would go.
Okay.
As far as suggestions, I almost feel like where it reads the sanctions or measures to address the alleged breach as an infraction may include, I'd like to probably add, but not limited to, so that it's really clear that they are suggestions. And then those pieces, kind of that coming in at the end. So after you've gathered all your information, whether it's informally or through a third party, it's gone to a code of conduct hearing or perhaps in both. Maybe it's resolved at without going to a code of conduct hearing. So I could put a blurb in there saying that, you know, based on the outcome of any of these stages, these are some of the suggested things that could be done too.
So where would you be thinking of putting that? Sorry, I didn't quite follow that.
Like not in one specific part of the sections
Oh, okay.
of the process, but just like at the end of everything, so that if at any point in the process you wanted to use some of these suggested things, they're there.
I think that might be an
It's
idea.
just
The board.
Just an idea.
I mean, yeah,
It doesn't really.
it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't.
But perhaps there will be others that, as trustee Zanetti has referred to, that haven't experienced this kind of thing, don't know how a process should work, would be helpful.
Yeah, that's what I thought when you
Yeah.
said that a new trustee or someone going forward who has seen this, has got this to refer to the
Yeah.
old one, even if it's in our mind.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to also now move down to 1.18 investigations. I'm not seeing in here, so it says they built, trying to catch myself up here. So we're investigating and
Sorry, what country?
1.18, page 58. Like the sharing the results with the whatever trustees or person, both trustees, I don't see that in here. Like the results after the, you know, share the results within 5 days or something. I can't. It's already in there and I've forgotten.
Sorry, in 1.18, it reads the investigator shall gather all relevant information and documents pertaining to the allegations, and upon completion of the investigation shall prepare a written report setting up their findings of fact, determining whether a breach has occurred.
Yep.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, and then it goes on the, yeah, I'm just, when I read it, I was just looking at, I couldn't find where the concerned trustee would get information, would get their,
Copy of the report.
yeah, I guess so.
Oh,
That's it. I did read over here. It does say you get stuff within 5 days or 3 days. But that's after the hearing, I think.
so to me, the
10
person that has brought it forward would be part of the board. So they would get that report.
But the other person.
The respondent.
Yes. Respondent. To provide at least 10 days advance notice.
There.
Sorry.
So in, okay, so this is in the case where you made it, the board has come together, they've had a predetermination, then they've decided that they wanted to launch an investigation to find out more information. So following that, you're asking if the respondent would get to see what the investigator found. So now you'd be going to your code of conduct hearing in 1.20. It says the trustee against whom the complaint has been made shall be provided with 10 days notice together with any information or documentation relevant to the complaint.
Okay, so it's covered there.
So you'd know.
Okay.
I mean, that said, I feel it implies that if the investigator came back with a report to the board where they found that there, and then the board decided there was not a need for code of conduct hearing, they're gonna share the finding as well.
Yeah.
It's not written in EAP, but that's implied that if it didn't move forward to a hearing.
Okay, just want to make sure that there's clear communication, I guess, about these things. Okay, thank you. And then, looking at 1.20, that line that you just read, 10 days advance notice of the meeting. It's really the hearing, isn't it? Not a meeting.
Yeah, I can change it to.
Yeah, because I think there's a difference. Personally. Yeah.
If you read 1.19, it says that formal code of conduct hearing is warranted. A closed in-camera meeting of the board shall be convened. So it's actually an in-camera meeting.
But it's a hearing.
It's a hearing within an in-camera meeting.
So,
Can't make decisions in just a hearing. You can only make decisions in formally authorized meetings with the in-camera public.
oh, I see.
Our circumstance, so it has to be an in-camera. So it's confidential. It's a hearing, it's a meeting. Have a hearing,
Okay, okay.
because you'll need a chair, and so like, otherwise you'd have to define who's the chair of the hearing. The processes that we follow.
Right, okay, you don't want to do that. Thank you. Okay, 1.22. I couldn't quite, I'm struggling to understand this, so you might be able to clarify. It's the last line. If it is determined that where am I here, trustee is in a conflict of interest, the trustee shall not participate in deliberation or vote in respect of any resolution. However, the trustee shall be present as required in order to maintain quorum of the Board of Education. So they're there, they're in a conflict. They're providing a number, but they can't vote. So why would they be in the number? I couldn't get that in my head.
To be perfectly honest, this piece was taken from Abbotsford's, the sample that BCSTA put forward as a good one to use. Not that I'm passing the buck, but what I'm seeing here is that if you need that trustee to be there for quorum, so that the meeting can be held and opened, then they're going to be there. However, if it's asking that they can't participate or vote, if you didn't have quorum without that trustee, I don't know that you could, hang on now, majority vote. So majority of the people there. So yeah, there could still be a vote.
Yeah.
So you may need them for quorum, but you may not need them to vote.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Does that work?
I'm
still struggling with that. So
It's likely because, just like when you're making motions or passing acceptance of collective agreements, for example, you have to have quorum. If you don't have quorum, you have to appeal for a court order that allows you to make a decision.
okay.
Obviously big on the lower mainland with some very specific instances. And I think that in order not to have to make it messier,
Yeah.
this language allows you to still have 4 people at the table, but they just can't be participating. And then all you need is 3 votes. So
But it makes your quorum, You know
your
what I'm
quorum is the number of people at the table.
but if one person
number-
can't vote, they shouldn't even be part of the number.
Saying, I think that's why, is to get around that legal issue. If you don't have quorum, you may have to go
Can't even
to
call a meeting.
the Supreme Court and ask for a variance of your quorum language.
Okay, well, I'm gonna bring up my majority question in a minute, so that might help this.
Harley.
Thank you, Harley.
Yeah, this comes up occasionally in some of our council meetings too. You can have quorum and somebody can abstain. They still vote. So I think that's a relevant example too.
Yeah.
You can still proceed with the business at hand.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Trustee Brave.
Thank you, Chair. I also think that it's good to have that language in there if you've got a couple of trustees against a couple of other trustees. As seen on the mainland, I believe in that same district. Because if you've got, there's 7 of us, if Chris and Larry and you two are kind of, that's where the conflict's happening, or that's where the breach seems to be happening, there's only going to be 3 of us left. So we would need to have
4 of you there.
4 for quorum. So we would need it, the opportunity needs to be there for other people
So
to
I
sit
come and just
in.
keep my mouth shut.
Exactly.
Well, if you guys understand further, that's fine. Okay, no, it's good. Okay, so I didn't, okay. So now, kind of along with that, because it talks about warrant 1.23.8, page 60. We're talking about the presiding chair shall call a resolution to be placed before the board. The board will vote on the resolution. So what I'm thinking, and this kind of goes along with this forum thing then, is it should be majority plus 1 is where I'm going with this. Because if you're making a decision about conduct, I think it shouldn't just be a simple majority. So throughout this document, throughout this section anyways, I'm going to suggest that it should be majority plus 1 because it's, if you're at an investigation stage and so on, because it could be a situation similar to what you were saying about people being against each other or something, in groups or size. That way it's a clear, because you can't have boards that are like 4-3 and everything that's what they do. Everything's 4-3. So if you make it 5-2, then that's, you do have to, because you could just have a majority, right? You know what I mean? So this is my thought. I don't know if I explained that very well, but I'm saying more than a simple majority plus 1 to get things resolved. Just, pardon me, Manager Mason.
Through the chair, this board operates under the board procedure, AP, which recognizes Robert Rules of Order, and the number of people needed to vote on a resolution can't be changed intermittently for different APs. It is a governing structure. So it's the same way for all.
You can't make any exceptions and stuff.
Majority vote.
Yeah.
Okay, no, then if that's how it works, then that's how it works. Okay, I thought that some things on my other community and society groups, some things like money or changing resolutions, it's not majority. It's 3/4, like Visa Society Act. The government says, no, if you want to change your absolve the group and you've got money, you can't just do a majority. It has to be 3/4 and stuff. So that's where I'm coming in from, but that doesn't apply. That sort of thing wouldn't apply here. Okay. So not possible. Okay. Just gonna read. Okay. 2.0 resolution of conflict at the bottom of page 60. So that whole thing talks about kind of I think principles kind of thing, like what you want to do. You want to do all those things, and it might be where you might add those potential resolution. Might be, I don't know, but I was thinking. So I'm kind of reading this at the end. So I've got I'm a trustee. I'm reading this whole policy or AP, pardon me. And I'm reading that comes to the very end. It's kind of a nice guiding light. If you want to be appreciative of others' contribution, well, like there's a lot of good stuff there. So I'm suggesting moving it to the front of the top of the AP as when you're approaching the code of conduct letter or whatever, that you're doing all those things.
Through the chair, I also toyed with having it at the beginning of the AP. And then I decided to leave it at the end because I thought it's almost like when you're doing a performance review and you need to tell somebody to pull the socks up on something. So you go in, you start positive, you let them know what to work on, and you finish positive. And so I thought it was a nice finish.
I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts.
I agree with Manager Mason. Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of lovely as an end because it's all very like step by step, we're talking about disciplinary measures, et cetera.
Okay. And then the last, on page 61, the last bullet of that resolution of conflict talks about focus on the group task. So when I read that, I'm like, group task is really,
sorry?
Top of page 61, the last bullet. focus on the group task. So when I was reading this, I'm like, the group task is student achievement. So is that, should we be highlighting that's what our focus should be?
Among other things, I think the group task is embodied in policy 112.
Yeah.
Okay. You're writing stuff down. Anybody comments on that?
I think that's great.
Okay, Darcy.
Thanks. I just wanted to say I agree with Mr. Dvorak's comment that looking at the policy and what's written here really misses out the public part. And it just really structures internally. So I think that something should be added for what if the public has a complaint for a breach of trustee code and what that process would be, because I don't know, should we be writing a letter to the chair of the board? Should we be going to our superintendent? As PACS, we guide parents if you have a complaint about the education of your student. It's usually to start with the teacher or the principal, work your way up and not go straight to the top.
Comments.
The reason I had asked if I could, sorry, through the chair, if I could look this up and get back to you on it, was simply because I wanted to check out if trustees are covered in the PETA, the Public Interest Disclosure Act. That is a form of a member of the public filing a complaint, as is we have an appeal a decision.
Yeah.
Personally, off the top of my head, I feel as though if a member of the public approached me, I would direct them to put it in writing, likely to the secretary treasurer. And then the secretary treasurer superintendent would bring forward the complaint, see if it's valid or not. But
Actually, the process is that it would not go to staff, it would go to the board. And typically they have, the boards have written formal complaint template. It would go to the board chair, goes to the board chair, go to the vice chair. Staff wouldn't be involved in internal board codes of conduct. But so I agree. Ryan and Darcy, there needs to be something in there. Typically is.
directing a member of the public as to how they would.
Just exactly and it won't be very long. So here's how you make the complaint. The rest flows through what you've already did.
It's not a.
And
Sorry, go ahead, Darcy.
in addition to here's how to make a complaint, what's the process a member of the public can expect would be followed and the response would be?
Yeah, it's typically, looks like typically with boards that have this, it's 30 days. When you know there's been a violation, you have 30 days to make a complaint. And there's a template you fill out and it's sent to the board chair, and then this other step would begin. And so in that process, will be outlined within 30 days, then this will happen. The board will follow their process, which is in policy procedure.
And I also support when it comes to the members of the public that there could be informal solutions. Often might just be a matter of education of what trustees can and can't do. The public can or can't complain about.
Thank you. I was just looking at the appeal of decision. Be different though. Okay. See if we had any. Okay, great. Are there any other comments or anything?
So that's coming back to us after.
Yeah, that's a good question. So come back here again after. Okay.
I just make a reminder, this, in effect, you're sending this out to consultation for yourselves. So you could raise it in an in-camera meeting as well and have further conversation if you wanted to, because that's part of our consultation process.
To the chair also, I just thought that BCSK was recommending that this be reviewed and in place prior to the election. So that's if we have new board members. And our next policy meeting won't be until September 8th. So I wonder if there's not, perhaps, could I send the revisions by email?
Trustee Bray had her hand up. So
Thank you, Chair. Can we add it to the agenda June 9th or the week after? I think we have. Sure. Or is the 9th our last in camera?
The 9th will be our last in camera before the summer break. But I'm wondering perhaps if I could send it out to our partner groups with the draft, with the revisions in it as well. To make sure that it looks explanatory.
Okay.
Yeah, just point out, they also have a September 1st in camera before school starts.
Yeah.
There is one more opportunity in September 1st to schedule this in camera.
yeah, but you're right, we need to let our partner groups know.
I was going to agree that this information should go out to partner groups at this time if possible. And we do have an opportunity September 1st to discuss it.
Okay, so I think we have some solution there. It's my stuff here. Just looking. Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you, Manager Mason for all that. Okay, now we're going to go to 4.8, policy 100, and we're going to stay with you, Manager Mason.
Let's see. To the committee, this policy was brought forward to align a bit better with our current strategic plan. There was kind of different guiding features on what's on our website, what's in our strategic plan, and what's in our policies. So this now aligns them all to the current strategic plan. Any questions?
Questions? Okay, so the header, the name, title of the 100, it says vision, mission. It's hard to say that. I had trouble last time too. Vision, mission, and core values. I think it should be mission, vision, because that's how it reads later in the document. And it's easier to say mission and vision versus vision and mission to me. So that's just a bit of comment. And then we're going so that's when it aligns with our other paperwork, really. It aligns with the strat plan and stuff. That's how it's listed. Core values. So under the core value section, the fifth paragraph, the board establishes core values through its adopted strategic plan. But it's really the core values and these core values define the priorities. So the core values are not the priorities. The core values are respect, integrity, compassion, responsibility, honesty, and equity. Those are our current ones in our strat plan. The vision's actually the goals, and those are all listed later, like when you say you're the strat plan, establish the following core values, but those are goals, and that's what it says in our strat plan. So I kind of, again, try to align them better to keep it consistent. I'm going to suggest that we change that up. I'm not sure what blurb you put under the core value one, but the last line paragraph that talks about the strat plan are goals, not core value, in my opinion, are goals. So, yeah. Yes, of course.
To the chair, I agree that core values are not the same as the individual goals. May I suggest that we change it to read
Single words. They're those
I
five.
was just trying to see if it was referred to something specific in the strat. But if I could just strike out where it says the strategic plan establishes the follow, also establishes the following goals.
Yeah.
Instead of core values, and then lists out those.
And yes, and then where it says back to the core value line, it says the core values are. I think that second line doesn't really work because it talks about the goals, because those are defined priority areas. So that second sentence on the core values may have to come out or change or something, because it doesn't line up. Or establish core values through its adopted strat plan. Which we can, I don't know if you want to list them, because they were listed in the old one, but they will change. And then they could change, pardon me.
Right. Let me rework that paragraph, the two lines under core values and improve that a bit.
Okay, thank you. And then on the, because it's a policy. And I know there's a bunch of revisions, so I might be missing it, but, the references. There's the legal references struck out on the old policy, but then I see it on the last line of the revised one, which is the second page. You've got school action, school order. Those are the references, I think, aren't they? Or is it just a comment to where I think they're the references, and I would add strat plan. Is that, am I kind of reading that right?
Yes, that is those are the references on page 65.
Okay.
I'll put the title, resources and references in there.
And then add strat plan? As a reference?
It is linked in the document, but I
Yeah,
can.
well, just asking.
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, so this is. So the revisions are coming. But we'll have to move this to the next public board meeting. We'll have time to look at them and so on. That gives you enough time?
Yeah.
Okay. So by consensus, oh, pardon me, I'm sorry, 82 director. President.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
I'm trying to remember all the titles, but I stumble.
I go with Brian, works just fine by me. Couple of comment first. First comment is I do hope the board has spent some time developing the board's mission, vision, and core values. It's a pretty integral part of the organization's responsibility to the system as a whole. I do hope you've had some time to go over this, the changes. I would no, I don't know what I'm trying to say. The commitments that are deleted are fairly comprehensive, but also fairly substantial commitments that the board makes. And I note they did not make it into the draft policy. So just perhaps more of an observation, but there are some fairly big ones that are important that I don't see articulated in the call it the mission, for want of a better term. Just food for thought for the board.
As the board can speak to the process of developing the strategic plan, line 2 was a really lengthy process. That the board was in for several sessions and there was consultation and lots of things going on. And so because we were referencing back to the strategic plan, that's why I struck this section out, because it's embodied in the strategic plan. It's up to the committee if you'd like that put back in, but.
I'm just going to make a comment. I wanted to review this, one of the people that wanted to review this and bring this here because the original policy doesn't maximally align with our strat plan. And this is our guiding light. And we did have lots of, as Andrew Mason said, lots of input and say, and our vision and mission are actually stated in here and our core values. And now they will align what's on here under our mission and vision are what we came up with consultation. And that's what's now on this policy 100. Just to keep them aligned, because if someone looked at my thoughts, or if 100 doesn't match this, then which is working kind of thing. So that wasn't my intention to bring it to the board and to align them. Does that kind of help? Because they're answering.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Trustee Craig.
Thank you, Chair. And just to Mr. Dvorak, if you look at the front of the strategic plan, it is entitled to 2027-28. So in a few months, this board will be back at that. So hopefully we will recall we must adjust policy 100 according to our discussions at that time. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Manager Benson, for that. Now we're going to go to 4.9 board procedure. I was thinking of you, please.
To the committee, the board procedure was mainly brought forward to update it. We did have a previous motion at a board meeting that was passed asking that this be renewed to add a placeholder for BCSDA and BCPC report. So that would become a standing item. So that has been renewed. In the info sheet that went with this, I kind of set out all the different things, such as renaming the Good News from Schools to Student Voice, so that we don't just get presentations from admin, but we actually really encourage students to be present. Yeah, so most of these things are just things that have come up along the way over the last year or so. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Ryan.
Just a couple of things, just a reminder to the board, as we iterated in 2024, the line 5.5, 5.5.5, it's like I could say five times in a row. It is the position of the ADTU that we are happy to serve on a standing committee, but in an advisory capacity only. And that it is our position that our participation does not discharge the board nor staff of the consultative requirements of our collective agreement or relevant jurisprudence. As such, the 5.5 is not in alignment with 21.2. The purpose of the committees shall be to discuss and make recommendations. The consultation means something, and I think not just to us, but to others in this room, and that our participation here is to help improve conversation or add what we can to the dialogue. Once it becomes consultation, it hits a legal bar that we're not willing to accept.
Just so I understand you a little better there. So in 5.5.5, it speaks to these representatives serving in a consultative and advisory capacity. And then going forward, it speaks about making recommendations.
Discuss and make recommendations as the purpose of it.
Okay. And do you feel those are contradictory or?
They're, in my opinion, they're not in alignment.
Do you have any suggested through the chair? Do you have any suggested wording you would feel like it's better to use?
I would be happy to serve in an advisory capacity,
Not in a
but I will not serve in a consultative capacity. I should rephrase that. The ADTU shall not. I would suggest just strike consultative.
Consensus? Any feelings? Trustee Raji?
I have no concerns with that, other than if any of the other groups, QP, PVPA, and DPAC have any concerns about that. Removing consultation.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. Yes.
So, yeah, we agree with ADTU. We did send the superintendent a letter in January saying that this was a informational piece for us to ask questions. It was not, we do not feel that this is a consultative venue for us either.
Okay.
Through the chair, also included in this group are the NTC and selected representatives, of which they don't happen to be here in person right now. So one representative is here.
Well, not through the NTC,
No.
which is a member tribe of the NTC. Made up of 14 separate tribes. So I wouldn't come close to saying I represent the NTC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the rest of the selected representatives as well are.
Right, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just to help myself understand what's happening right now, are we just looking at changing a couple of words? Just removing consultative, whatever that word was, consultative.
Peter?
And just advisory.
That's it?
Just advisory.
Thank you, Chair. Just through your questions. So for procedures, this is going to go out for public consultation. The opportunity for these other groups to come back with more comments or thoughts on that terminology.
I'm sure the chair, because this is an AP, it does not get treated in that manner. It comes to the policy committee like today. And then any revisions would be made and it's under the purview of the superintendent. So it wouldn't go out to a public consultation like a policy would, because it's an AP. I feel as though I'd like to reach out to the other people in this 5.5 and to see what the feeling is before changing something like that. If that's.
I would be more comfortable if we did that. That's procedurally allowed.
I think it is. I mean, that's the point. We bring it here. We often give suggestions or feedback to staff and then they go and do more consultation. So I think that's fair. But just so that I feel board members I don't have a problem with getting rid of this one trustee is saying that. I think getting rid of that one word still allows for advisory capacity. For the standing committees, because standing committees are committees of consensus anyways. So in my mind, it kind of works, but that's just my comment on that. Okay, Darcy.
I like to say I respect ADT's position. It sounds like a very complex reason to say they're out of alignment for them. For district parents, well, I'm not quite sure how I feel one way or the other. Parents are, as the DPAC group, generally feel that we're a rights holder type partner and that there's certain reasons why we're included as a partner group because it's written into school act that the district must include us in their consultation processes. And when I think about it, consulting means you're bringing information to a group and asking their advice, as opposed to if you take that out, you're just saying they have a right to advise if they want, but it doesn't really say that you have a requirement to consult with. So that's my, I think, only concern about taking out the word consult. It might weaken that intention that required to include DPAC in your consultations in the committees. I said that right?
Thank you.
Through the chair. And this is just a really quick peek, so maybe don't quote me on it, although it's now in the meeting. But just looking up, just literally Googling the difference between the word advisory versus consultative. It's mentioning on several answers here that advisory is thought more of a long-term or reoccurring retainer versus consulting being more of a short-term with a defined start and end date. I don't know if that weighs in at all in the conversation, but
I just think that we'll get stuck on this if we keep going and we send these to our partner groups who can send back feedback. Is that a legal collective agreement leading around the word consult, which is what our partner unions are concerned about. So I totally understand where they're coming from. Respect Darcy's comments as well, but if we need to get their feedback from all of these groups, and then we can put into this, it needs to be. It's very different for the two unions than it is for the other groups listed here.
Steve Washington.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Mr. Claver, and we could easily split it into two separate groups. One that's consultative and advisory and one that's just advisory, so
Definitely one way.
depending on how they wish to go. I did the same thing. I just Googled consultative.
I have one last question or comment. 27.3, page 84, I believe. Trustees / members must keep their camera on throughout the duration of the meeting. They must not attend with blurred, sorry, I must do that blah, blah, blah. My apologies, with blurred or other such virtual backgrounds in place. I'm suggesting that we just change that to in-camera meetings. I think it's a public meeting. You don't have to have you can blur it up. I mean, it's public, not a secret. You're not needing to provide that there's no one else listening because it's a public meeting. So I'm going to suggest that we just clarify that's for in-camera. I think it would also just make some things a little easier.
Can I clarify what section you're on?
27.3, page 84, if I'm not mistaken, was on the computer.
84.
I don't know.
7.3?
Yeah. But there's any comments on that, or if it's not agreed on. Superintendent.
I'm just going to weigh in and say that the point of virtual meeting is to be as present as possible. Could be that you have 3 people behind you looking over your shoulder, prompting you with your answers. It could be that they're actually attending the meeting as well, which is being heard by Manager Mason in a meeting. So I think that visibility and transparency needs to be maintained throughout the public meeting as well as an in-camera meeting, in my opinion.
And thank you, Mr. Claver, because I do agree. I'm involved in a number of other entities that have the same ruling. And that is one of the reasons that you are there for that meeting, whether it's public or in camera, or just a quick meeting, that you have no blurred and nobody else in your vicinity directing to make comments. I agree.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments on that one? Okay, thank you, Manager Mason. Good job. We're going to go to 4.10, Director of Human Resources. Well, please.
This one we wrote a policy from the AP. The policy, the way that it means is a modernization of the language for the AP. We are trying to follow the WorkSafe language, so that's just a direct quote from the WorkSafe. And then if this is approved here today, we will follow the consultation process. Right? In Article D26 of the collective agreement with the ADTU, standards are outlined in AP 7200, which shall be, if altered, amended, or deleted, we have to consult with the union. So after this process, we would move it forward for the consultation at LR once the committee approves
that. Sorry, ADT President DeBark.
Yeah, at the risk of turning, this is part of the reason my consultation matters to us so much. The standards in AP 7200, previous policy 2701, going back in time to 1989, where they were enshrined partially in policy and partially in our collective agreement through a little clause there that says they shall not be altered, amended, or deleted without consultation with the ADTU, which has not happened at this point. So I'm going to suggest perhaps the cart is slightly before the horse in this one, as we will have very significant comment to make on this separation of policy, and particularly the deletion of the classroom temperature standards between 19 and 25, which I know is coming up next in the agenda. So sent letters to the director of HR and the superintendent to that effect.
Yeah, of course. We do feel like that consultation happens after that separate, like we've been working through to modernize our policies and APs by separating them. Once we have that separation, then we felt that's when the consultation would go forward. So I think it's just a little bit of procedural misunderstandings. So we are planning on taking that forward to LR for consultation.
Superintendent Claver.
Just gonna make the point that we are following board procedure. And that it's in effect notification that there may be a change. It does not necessarily mean this will be accepted by me for that AP piece. But I know this is an important AP for the ATU, and that have a procedure they could follow if they disagree with our procedure.
Procedural wise, where's the place to bring this up? With this body, with labor relations, with grievance, or three at once?
So my position and our position would be that this is notification that we're considering a change, and that consultation would now be required with the ATU with collective agreement as to whether this change takes place or not. As far as whether you think the process is flawed by board procedure, that would be a grievance procedure. That would be a policy grievance.
Trustee,
Through the chair, it's a policy grievance or a procedural grievance?
It's called a policy grievances.
Oh, okay.
It's policy grievances, just a
Okay.
technical
Thank you.
term that we use.
I have a question for ADTU. So so it was originally a AP policy mixed, and now we're just taking out, not just, now the suggestion is to take out the policy and rewrite it and create a separate policy, which is the broad overarching theme. Are you also saying that you're against us proceeding with that, bringing that to the public for consultation? I'm just wondering, yeah.
I'll provide comment on policy as per the public comment component to that, but more particularly, there's a line in 1.141 that is quite near and dear to us that is now being deleted.
And that's the AP.
It's also
In the procedure.
regarding my original comment on process. My question to the board would be, having clear temperature standards in their schools has been a value of this board since 1989 and predating 1989, our collective agreement. Having this policy and these clear standards provides a clear standard which schools, operations, and administrators can ensure both the effective and safe working conditions of your employees, but also the safe and effective learning conditions of your students. I feel this is quite important.
So I'm just so I'm hearing, or I'm understanding that the policy portion, which just talks about safety, like we can move forward. I'd like to move forward with getting that policy for public input, which you've already said you're going to do. So is that kind of the consensus of the board that we can move the policy portion to the next public meeting for 30-day consultation? Any consensus or some kind of?
I think so.
Okay.
I believe the issue is in the AP, not in the policy.
So that's what I'm thinking. I just want to make sure that groups are, they have consensus as well. Okay, so this is leaving it tricky. Consensus is, oh, pardon me.
So that speaks to us following work safe regulations. That what's behind this?
Yes. So yes, we're going, the suggestion in the AP is that we move away from the temperature standards and use the work safe language that says, as per the operational health and safety regulations 2020, requires employers in every indoor space of employment to maintain thermal conditions that are reasonable and appropriate for the work performed. So those are the guidelines from WorkSafe. So we're trying to adhere to that.
To clarify, so it doesn't speak to specific temperature, just,
Yeah.
okay, so that's the minimum standard, so what she's talking about is another standard that in the policy. Just so I'm understanding. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ryan.
Yeah, just to highlight a couple of pieces, there is reference the Canada Occupational Health and Safety Regulation. I'll point out to the board that is for federally regulated work sites. Under WorkSafe, the indoor air quality is governed by ASHRAE Standard 55, 1992 or 2003, I believe. They have a very substantial document related to indoor air quality, which I'm sure Alex and I can go over at some point.
Superintendent.
Just quite flexible here, the decision needs to be made whether the policy is moving forward for consultation with the recommended changes by director, and then we'll move to the AP piece, which is again, consultation happens.
So for the trustees, we're going to move this policy forward to the next public. Okay. For consultation. Okay. We are running out of time and I'm doing my best. So, I think I'm allowed to ask, we only have two, well, we have this AP and then 6:10 feedback. Do you want to, and we don't have any more meetings scheduled for a while. So are people willing to stay for, the time required to get that done? Or would you like me during the meeting to move these, forward? I do respect everyone's time. I'm hoping we can go through, I think we can go through it quickly.
I think we should just move forward and get both of them.
Yeah. I just need people to, okay, so that's the chair. Well, let's do it. Yeah, okay, let's go. Let's finish. Okay, so we're just the AP. We already discussed there's some issues. I think that, anything else? Go ahead.
I just realized I have to excuse myself because I believe I have to take my kid to school for the band concert and I was told 5:30.
Thank you for coming, Darcy. I'm sorry we're running. Okay, so, I had a couple, that's gonna come back to the board probably, that's AP, I'm assuming, so I'm not gonna ask my questions. Go ahead.
I'm just going to make a suggestion. Well, you may want to consult with Dr. Taylor about including lead and water in this AP. That figured by.
Anything else for the 720 AP health and safety? Okay, thank you very much for that open conversation. Now we're going to go down, 5, policies sent out, there are none. 6, policy admin procedures, public consult, none there. 7, forward to public next week meeting for adoption. So 610 had some feedback. Director Bennett, I believe, made the amendments and it's been provided there. You may want to speak to it. Sorry, if you wanted to speak to that.
So through the chair, feedback came back from 82. The request was to align the policy with the ministerial order, which I think in the original policy committee meeting when this was first presented in March, there was a query around an exclusion of a sentence. So based on feedback, the ministerial order governs our work around this. So for clarity, I believe, which is what the 82 is asking for, all I did was just reinstate that sentence. And so I've cited the ministerial order for
comments. So this we'll move to the next meeting for adoption because we already have the consultation and everything. So yeah. And there's no new business, there's no future. Well, there's, sorry. Sarah, I apologize. I just want to make you all laugh and happy. There's no future policies listed under that number 9. But there are a million probably. Next week we held September the 8th at 3:30 here. And, you know, for sure, trustee
I have
Washington.
one quick question.
Of course.
So I just want to make sure, so the concerns raised by the ADTU are now everything's okay? With pencil.
Oh, with the,
Yes.
this one? Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Not that it was for me, it's more for
Okay.
you.
So then, not anybody else? Okay, next meeting is September and we are adjourned. Thank you so much for all your energy. You're hello.
All of it.
I don't know how.